Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Flips and Fun Stuff Friday, and this will be the last Flips part of the Fun Stuff Fridays, Flips and Fun Stuff Friday. From now on it's going to be called Fun Stuff Friday, and it's going to be, of course, the day where I review different products that have come in. If a product hasn't come in, then we'll take a look at a different product that I have in my collection. Today we're going to look at the iconic Crayola brand. These are wonderful things that as children we dreamed about having. As grown-ups we started our coloring journey with. I myself started with 100 set of the Crayola colored pencils. They were my first actual colored pencils. The other colored pencils that I started with, I found out were actually watercolor pencils. So, needless to say, they didn't work as well as the colored pencils did. But the set that I had was 100 set, and I gave that to my son when I started delving into the more expensive artist grade sets. So I saw on Amazon that they had the Crayola brands on sale for quite cheap. So I thought, okay, they've got the 120 set. That's really cool. I haven't had those before. So I bought those. And then I noticed that they had the erasable ones. And as a child, I really wanted these because they're erasable. And, so I bought those. And then when my kids were growing up, they always wanted these, which are twistables. So basically the core is all the way down a plastic shaft and you turn it like you would a pen or a pencil, mechanical pencil. And of course, I've seen a lot of people using these or reviewing these on YouTube lately, and this is the blend and shade colored pencil set from Crayola as well. Now, these three here all have only 50 pencils in them, and they are all the exact same colors. However, they are not the exact same grade of colorability, in my opinion. I did not try these ones yet. I looked at them and I looked at the tip of them. And one of the things that I'm trying to figure out is how to get a sharp point on them beyond rolling that lead around to a point where it's a point. And I don't think you can do that. They are fairly thin leads. So we will try them without sharpening or without getting the sharpening done. These ones here, I did try to sharpen one, and I broke my fingernail off. The sharpener barely turned. It did not like these whatsoever. So, needless to say, I was not too happy with those ones either, but we will test them all together and see where they go. Because all of them have pretty much the same colors in them, I can choose one or two different colors out of each set and still maintain the same color, the ability to look and see what colors are better than the others. Same with the 120 set. There is more colors in it, of course, but it does start with maroon and mahogany and all that sort of stuff, just the same as these sets. These sets start with mahogany, and I do believe this one also starts with mahogany. So these all start with mahogany. The other one starts with maroon, but we can pull all of the mahogany and maroon colors and see. Well, this one doesn't really have a, oh yeah, maroon's way down there. Okay, but we can pull all of the mahogany colors and see where they stand. in each set. And we can also take a look at and color with a little bit from each set and see how they work on coloring book paper. Now I'm going to switch you on over to the other camera. So I'm going to put you on a very, very brief be right back while I get that other camera sorted out and set up for you. Yesterday I had a bit of a problem with it, so I wanted to make sure that I had something to entertain you while I do that. So I will be right back. Okay, thank you so much for being so patient. So I've got a color swatch here. I'm going to turn on this light and hopefully not completely blind y'all. Trying to make it so that it's pointing at the color swatch sheet so you can see without being blinded. And it's not working so well. So we're going to turn that off. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the maroon in each color. Now, I'm going to show you how each of these are put together. Like this one here is the 120 set. Of course, it is a cardboard box, which I don't like. I don't like the cardboard boxes, just because they're flimsy and hard to get things in and out of. They do come with little sleeves to hold the pencils, and you can use them to hold the pencils while you swatch them and whatnot, but it makes it difficult to get to the pencils behind these pencils. So that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the mahogany. So that's the mahogany. Another thing about these colored pencils that I did notice is that the writing on them seems to have gotten smaller, and some of the wood seems to have a lot of dark spot in it. I'm not saying it's pitted or anything. It's just it seems to be a different type of wood in each of them. So there is the Crayola 120. So let's do 120 here, and then twistable here, and then erasable here, and then blend and shade here. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take one color. Well, we'll take a few different colors, but we'll do one color at a time from each of these sets and compare them. Now, another thing I didn't like about the twistables is they don't have any color names on them. So you kind of have to keep it in the box to know what color you're going to be, what color you're using. So they say that the first one is mahogany. I can't guarantee that it's mahogany because it doesn't look like mahogany. It looks a little red to me because I think I grabbed the wrong one. Hold on a sec. And they're hard to get out. Yeah, that's more like it. So we'll grab the mahogany from the twistables. And like I said, they don't have any color names on them whatsoever. Nothing that is going to tell you what color you're going to get out of that, which is a little bit not what I'm used to or what I would want to use, because I need to know what color the name is or what number it is so that I can be sure that I have the right color from the swatch. And of course, you can definitely do it yourself. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that it's not something I would normally do. Now, I'm just trying to get this one open. These are the erasable. They're preferred by teachers because they are erasable. And I tried the eraser on the one that broke my fingernail, and they do erase quite nicely. Now, when I open them, I noticed that a lot of them have the cores look like they're flattened and rubbed off. So I sharpened this one, which is the mahogany, and broke my fingernail trying to get it to a sharpen point, which didn't make me happy at all, as you can probably imagine. So we'll take the mahogany out of that one, and then we'll take the mahogany out of this one as well. And this is the blend and shade. Now with the blend and shade, another one of my pet peeves is a waste of space. Now this tin is quite large, but there's so much wasted space. I like the fact that it comes with the little separators so that the pencils aren't being bounced around a whole bunch. But there's a good 10 pencils worth of space there that is completely wasted. The trays are a little bit hard to get out of the box, as you can tell. And okay, that one didn't want to get out at all. And they're flimsy. They're really, really they're not as flimsy as some I've seen, but they're difficult to get out of the box. And with that difficulty and the flimsiness of these trays, I can see pencils flying. I really can. So we're going to take the mahogany out of that one as well. And we're going to put that over there. Okay, so this is the 3 or 4 different types of pencils I have here. We have the erasable, we have the twistable, we have the Crayola 120s, and we have the blend and shade. Now what I want to do is I want to do a little swatch of each. So each one will have its swatch sheet done. And we're going to take a look and compare how each of them lays down. So I did this last night on a softer surface, not thinking about it, and it barely laid any color down at all. So you will definitely have to have a solid surface. So coloring in a coloring book may not be solid enough to get a good color. I do apologize. Shyla, shush. Somebody just rang my doorbell. Just one moment. I'm going to hit that B rack right back just one more time, and I'll be right back. I do apologize for that. Thank you very much for waiting and being so patient with me. So as I was saying, is on a soft surface, I didn't get a very good color out of the pencils at all. And I am pressing really hard to get this color out of this pencil, which I can't remember having to do when I first started coloring. And I don't see how that's going to work well for me since I layer a lot. So I'm not sure how much color I'm going to be able to get on a page if I'm having to put full pressure to get the color that is desired from that pencil. Now we're going to try the twistables, and like I said, I haven't tried these ones yet. So what you do is you turn this little dial here, and the pencil core comes out. So let's dial it back so I'm not breaking it in half. And then you just color with it. Now I don't know if this is mahogany. It is the one that was in the mahogany spot in the box. However, I can't guarantee that it's the same color, but we can definitely look at the laydown of it, as well as the depth of color in comparison to the light from to the dark. Now it doesn't seem to lay down too badly. And when I press hard, see, my only concern with these is the lack of ability to sharpen. So you could end up with flat sides where it makes it more difficult to use them. But the color, like I said, I'm having to press quite hard on both of these so far just to get a good layer of color down. And I shouldn't have to press that hard to get a layer of color down. The layers that are there are quite nice, but you're not going to be able to layer anything on top of it. Now this is the erasable. It's mahogany, and it does have the color name on the pencil, which to me is much better than this one here where there is no color name and you got to guess what color it is. Now this one, like I said, I did try to sharpen this, and it quite literally tore my fingernail off using my crank sharpener. So it is a very, very solid wood. And the color is very lackluster. It's got very little pigment. I'm using a medium to light hand here. Normally when I do my swatches, I do a light hand and a heavy hand. And I'll gauge in between the two when I'm coloring. Now I'm doing the light hand side, and I'm finding that I'm putting a little bit more pressure on it than I normally would, just to get some kind of color out of it. Now I'm going to use a heavy hand, and it's almost like a wax crayon almost, where it starts and stops. It's not smooth at all. And the color is just very, very, very lackluster. There's definitely not something that as a colorist I would find appealing. As a mom buying school supplies, maybe. But for the cost of these, and these are all brands, and I'll do this because it is erasable. I want to show you the erasability of it. So it does erase really, really well. But it takes a lot to get that color down. And then if you go over it, it just scrapes it off. So to me, those would not be good for coloring in coloring books. Only because they, well, not only, I guess, because they just don't have the colorability. They don't have the pigmentation or the um, smooth coloring that you would expect. I'm going to bring you in just a little bit here so you can see what I'm talking about. So far, I'm just going to do one more. So far, we've done the Crayola 120, which isn't too bad. It's, like I said, I had to press really, really hard to get that. The twistables, I don't think this is the same color myself, but like I said, it's the one that was in that spot. Still a very pretty color. However, you can't sharpen it. There is no names on the pencils. You don't know what color you're going to get except for what is on the outside of the barrel, the packaging. So, you, and it took quite a bit of pressure and peeled off quite a bit of lead to get that amount of color. The erasables have very little color at all. And I had to press very, very hard to get this kind of color. And once I've tried to go over it again, it just peeled it off. So to me, that's not going to work very well at all in coloring books. I don't know how these are going to work in the coloring books themselves. So we're going to actually color in a coloring book just to take a look and see how well they color on coloring book paper. This is a cardstock, so it may do better on a toothier coloring book paper. Now we're using the blend-in shade and doing a light layer on the blending shade does seem to go down quite smoothly. It's not jumping, it doesn't have a stutter, which is great. This one here doesn't seem to have too much of a scratch, which is also really good. And when I do the hard, I don't have to, you see there's a bit of scratch when you press a bit harder. And it does cover quite well. There's no major white spot there. And I'm not having to push as hard as I did with the other three. However, I'm still pushing pretty hard. And for $40 for a 50 pack, I was a little bit disappointed because, I have bought a lot of pencils in my time, and I've only been coloring for, just over 2 years now. And I have bought less expensive, more colors, and better pigmentation for half the price of what these cost. Now, I don't know, like I said, I haven't colored with them in a coloring book, so I don't know if it's just because it's on cardstock, which is what I color with and color on mostly. So that matters to me. That's definitely a mahogany color. So the color depth between this one and this one is about the same. This one here is a little bit darker in the heavy hand than over here. So I think this one here is definitely going to do a little bit better than the Crayola 120. The twistable is quite nice with its deep shade as well as with its lighter shade here. However, I don't think this is mahogany. I think it is maroon. But like I said, they don't have color names on them. So if you get them mixed up in the box, you're not going to know what color that is. And if you put them in a coloring box, crayon box or something else to hold them, you are going to have to name them or number them so that you know what colors they are. The erasable is just unusable as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, it was very hard to sharpen it, and the pigment just peels up when you try to color over top of it. Now, that may be different in a coloring book on coloring book paper, but um, so far this one is by far the worst. So let's take a look at one of the coloring books that I have here. And I have Tabitha Barnett's coloring book here, not because it's terrible paper or anything else, just because it's got smaller pictures in it, so that we can work with all of the pencils and be able to compare them side by side on the paper. So let's just try to pick a picture. I thought I had one picked, but well, let's just do the cover page here. So this is the cover page to Tabitha Barnett's Floral Dreams book. I'm not sure if you can see that because of the... And we're just going to take each of these pencils, except for the one that I already sharpened, and give them a bit of a sharpen and take a look at them on, because doing the swatch, I pretty much mashed them down. Now I'm finding that these are all very, this one here as well was very, very stiff to sharpen. Now, of course, the twistable you can't sharpen. And I'm trying not to do this on my table with the camera because I don't see. This one is hard too. I'm gonna break another fingernail. I don't know why the wood on these are so hard to sharpen. And this is the blendable one, so I was expecting it to be a little bit easier to sharpen than the erasable or the regular Crayola. So we're going to I think you guys can see that flower there. Now this is the regular 120. And it's doing pretty good on the coloring book paper, which is great. And, that's one thing that I've always said is, and one of the reasons why I purchase so many different sets of pencils is because it all depends upon the paper. Sometimes if you're working in one coloring book, you find that the pencils are working fantastic, absolutely gorgeous colors. And then you move on to another coloring book and from a different publisher or a different factory or a different country, and those colors are terrible. So I'm coloring this petal the same way I would color a petal normally. I'm putting in a darker area down at the bottom and going up into a lighter area. Now, as you can see with the lighter area, I have tried to do that at a medium level, and it is still got quite a bit of white spot in it. We will test the blendability of these as well with a colored pencil blender, and we will take a look at that as well. Just going to take a quick focus check here. There, that's a little better. Sorry about that. I didn't realize it was out of focus on you. So that is the Crayola 120. So we're going to put a small little 120 here. And this is the blend in shade, and it is doing beautifully on this coloring book paper. It's going down quite smooth. Now, one of the things that I will say about this one is that I was able to put a couple of different layers on. So I did go over a light layer with a medium layer and a dark layer. Right now I'm just doing the light layer on this one. And I will go through and I will add a little bit more pressure and see how much of that white spot and everything else that we can cover up. Now I'm going to do the heavier layer here, so I'm using a heavy hand here. And it seems to be doing okay. And then into a medium hand here. And I'm finding that it's starting to scratch off some of the color from the heavy hand. So I just gently going over top of it so that I don't scratch it all off. Now, if you were using multiple pencils here, you may find that you don't have the ability to do more than 2 or 3 layers. And of course, there's a white spot area. So blendability wise and layering both seem to do quite well. Just going over this one. This one does seem to take a few more layers to get rid of that white spot, the same as this one, but it does give a cleaner look in the darker areas. And like I said, you can go a little bit darker, put a little bit pressure on it. Just keep an eye on it because I'm getting a little bit of peel up on that darker area. I'm going to take my brush and wipe it off so that I don't drag it on to the next one. So this is blend. So I'm going to put a B there. Now this is the erasable one. And we're going to use that here. And I'm not getting a whole lot of color out of that. And I'm having to work it quite a bit. Like I'm into the heart area, and the more I work it, the less color there is. So this would not work well for adult coloring, I don't think, unless you're a very, very heavy-handed person that puts down a lot of color all at once and doesn't want to put any more down. To me, and the way I color, and I'm trying really hard to not completely quash an icon. Um, they are they're just not working. Like I said, the more you color with them, the more it peels up and gets that look of crayon. So now we're going to try now we're going to mark this one, erasable. And this one here is the twistable. And I know this isn't going to match in color because of the swatch sheet we did. And this one here is harder to control because you're worrying about mashing that core that's sticking out. And it does react a little bit more like a wax crayon than with a pencil as a pencil crayon. So what I mean by that, growing up, we called colored pencils pencil crayons. And the reason why we did that is because they were made, by crayon companies and had the same wax core, just with more pigment in it and less wax and, that sort of thing. But they were made in the same factory as crayons, so we called them pencil crayons. So it does put down quite a big bit of pigment there, but it does take a lot of work to get that pigment down. And as you can see, I have pretty much mashed that tip down as well. It's a little bit mushroomed, which means it's going to start peeling off the more I color with it. Trying to get a point on this pencil might be difficult, and you may find that in tighter areas it will be difficult to get that point. The color in it's not too bad, but it's not absolutely fantastic either. Now I'm going to take my Caran blender here, Caran Dash blender here, and I'm just going to take it and blend first of all in the 120. And it seems to be blending the 120 quite nicely. I am having to give it a little bit of a weight. I'm not just gently going over it. I am having to give a little bit of weight to get rid of that white spot. But it does quite well. So in the blend and shade, you would expect this would take less weight. And it's taking about the same amount of weight to blend it. Actually, it's taking pretty much the same amount of weight to blend it and get that lack of white spot going on there. And this is the erasable. And it's not blending at all. The more I blend it, the more it comes off. It doesn't look terrible. But it doesn't feel really good either. Like it feels very, very waxy when you're trying to blend it. It feels like it's peeling up a bit. All right, and this one here is the twistable. And it seems to be doing okay with the blending. At least the white spot is coming out, which is basically what I wanted. But like I said, the one thing I don't like about those is the fact that it does not have a name on the barrel, as well as um, the lack of ability to um, sharpen it. However, in a pinch, like if I was going somewhere and I just wanted to throw some pencils into um, my bag, it may be something that would be possible to be used. So, like I said, that is just one color out of each set. They did blend very nicely, and they do seem to have a good, um, what is the word? Uh, just try. There we go. They do seem to have a good look on media. However, it looks different on the camera than it does on the paper, if that makes sense. I'm going to take a look here and see if I can, if that's because of the camera settings or whatnot. Um, I'm not sure. To me, sitting here with these colors, and these colors aren't the best colors to choose for that, of course. They are browns and burgundy kind of colors. But hit that. So that gives you a little bit more of an idea. Also going to put you in focus a little bit better there. Try to bring you in a bit more. So, okay. So I've brought you in quite tight so that you can see what I mean by like this one here. Um, there's very little color there compared to here. It looks like I've done a very light layer like I did here. But that is a heavy layer and a medium layer and then a heavy-handed blend. And it still looks very, very light in color. Let's see if I can do this without blinding y'all. So same with here. Even with a heavy-handed blend with this, that white spot still comes back. And that was one of the things that really had me switch from using Crayola pencils was I could never get rid of the white spot. And it drove me crazy. It would drive me crazy. And I was really hoping that with the 120 set or with the new blending pencils, these ones, that it would stop doing that. However, one of the things I have found is the longer you wait after you blend, like I can come back tomorrow and probably have white spot all over again. And that was what I found with them when I first started using them, or when I stopped using them, is I would come back and to finish a picture and it would look terrible. And hopefully it doesn't do that because that would be really frustrating. But in my honest opinion, the best two would be these two. The Twistables is doing pretty good, but this erasable, um, this one here, just doesn't, like you can tell with the tip how hard I had to press on that to get what little color I have down there. Um, all in all, the as a brand, it's an iconic brand. And growing up, I found that the pencils were one of my favorites. When I first started doing adult coloring again, I found that the pencils were one of my favorites. Um, but as I grew, I'm just gonna zoom you out there, turn that off. As I grew as a colorist, I found that coloring with these kind of pencils on the cardstock that I chose to use um, was not a good fit for me, as well as grayscale, which is another thing that I really enjoy using. I found that sometimes you can end up with a peel off. Let's see if I can show you what I mean. This, of course, is Tabitha Barnett's Floral Dreams book that we were coloring in, and it's just the cutest book ever. I'm going to take a look at my big book of color charts here, because she has some little pictures in here. Let's see if there's a grayscale one. So there's a little bit of a grayscale one. Let's see if we can color on this without peeling up the grayscale. That was one of my other pet peeves with grayscale and these Crayolas, was you color the grayscale and end up with a peel up of the black from the grayscale on your pencil. Now these ones here seem to be doing okay with it. Not seeing a little bit. So it's peeling up a little bit of the grayscale, but not as much as what I'm used to with them. And this is the blend-in shade. So they're a little bit softer than the 100 set that I used to have. Let's see if the 120 set is any softer. So I know you can't see that very well because of the fact that it is grayscale and it is fairly dark. And we're using a pretty dark color here, so. And it seems to be, covering up that grayscale quite well, to a point where you can still see the grayscale, but you can see the color too. Down here, while going from light to dark, it does seem to be having a bit of an issue. It's not as smooth covering from light to dark. And I'm pressing hard enough for it to make that, that scratchy color pencil noise, which it shouldn't be doing either, but so that tells me that it is scratching. And as you can see there's a bit of black in there, so it is picking up the black. Now this one here, I fully expect to pick up that black, because I have to, in order to get the color, I really have to press hard. Otherwise, you get very little color at all. Well, I get very little color at all. And of course, this is only my opinion. I have seen some really gorgeous colors and some really colorings, I should say, and some really beautiful pictures of things that other colorists have done. I don't know how they do it, but, and this one here is also picking up a bit of that grayscale. But they do come out with some really, really pretty colorings. And this one here is not going over that grayscale very well at all, and it's starting to chunk off like I was worried it was going to, because of that softness of the lead and not being able to sharpen it. As you color, it just seems to fluff off, which is going to cause a problem as you're coloring, because you can't get into those really tight areas and you're going to get little bits that break off, which is what's going on right now. All right, let's see if it picked up the grayscale at all. A little bit. But as you can see, the edge there is starting to break off, and it's mushroomed quite a bit. But it didn't do too badly. It did pick up the grayscale. It didn't peel it off like it used to, so that's a good thing. Personally, I used to really enjoy my Crayolas, and you know, like I said, once I started coloring on cardstock, it became less and less of one of my favorite coloring pencils. I don't think they work as well for me on cardstock as I would hope. And that's my own personal opinion, of course. Would I buy these again if I wasn't doing a YouTube video and letting people know how the different pencils work? No, I wouldn't. Only because now that I've tried them and I can definitely tell that they're not going to work for what I want them to work for, I would not buy them again. The 120 set and the Crayola blending pencils work very nicely. They are really, really good in a coloring book. On cardstock, I don't think they work as well as I would want them to work, as well as, you know, a lot of other ones that I already have. The twistables, like I said, they work really nicely. They have a really good color. However, as you can see, well, maybe you can't. On this one, it is mushroomed out. It doesn't go into a cylinder or flat tip because of trying to color with it on its sides, trying to get a sharp point. There is no way to sharpen these. There is no way to know exactly what color you're using, because there is no, beyond the color chart on the back of the box, there is no indicators on the pencils at all of what color you're using. The erasables are, yeah, they're erasable, which is really cool. And they are really good at erasing, which is really cool. But they are lackluster in color, and you have to press really hard in order to get a good color out of them. The same with the 120s. The 120s are really, really nice, and they go down quite nicely on coloring book paper. On the cardstock that I would use them on, or that I print most of my pictures on when I'm coloring, it just seemed very difficult to get a good layer of color out of them, which tells me that I'm not going to be able to blend other layers onto that color. And to me, that makes them unusable for me. because I like to layer different colors and different depths of color. And if I can't do that with more than one pencil, then I'm going to have a bit of a problem with the pictures I color. So personally, if I absolutely had to have, like if I was put on a deserted island and I was told I could only have one type of Crayola product and that was all I could have for coloring, I would definitely go with the blend and shade. If I could have two, I would go with the blend and shade and the 120 set. The 120 set just because it has a lot more colors in it and it does still put down color. It doesn't put it down as smoothly or as consistently as a lot of other more expensive or even some of the less expensive, because these were $40. So to say more expensive is definitely wrong. You can't really say more expensive because those are now up in the same price range as artist grade colored pencils and things that you would expect from an artist grade colored pencil. You're not getting with the Crayola student grade. And that's what those are. They are definitely a student grade pencil. Now, also with the blend and shade, these are supposed to be an artist grade pencil. They are not cheap. They are not, for 50 pencils, it's $40. Well, 37 something, almost $40 for a artist grade, quote unquote, colored pencil. And to me, just for the way that I would use them, I find that I need to put a little bit too much pressure on them to get a good color level out of them for the vibrancy that I want in my colorings. But I did do an entire swatch with them where I didn't do an entire swatch with any of the other ones because of the fact that they did lay down a lot easier. The other ones were having so many difficulties laying down color. I didn't do an entire swatch with them. This is the swatch for the blend and shade. I didn't name or number them. I just wanted to see what colors looked like on the type of paper I would use. I had a few problems with a couple of different ones. For example, this one here and this one here, you can probably, if I bring you in a little bit closer, and bring you right in here so you can see what I'm talking about. You can see where the pencil has actually scratched the paper on some of these. The dark purples, this blue here, it took a lot of coloring over and over and over, as well as up and down, to get that level of color out of it. This one here wasn't too bad. One of the things, like I said, that I am finding, especially on the cardstock, is that I've had to put so much pressure and so much weight on them to get a good layer of color or a good consistent color from them, that I would never be able to layer different colors together to get the color, that sort of thing that I would want to get. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people really enjoy them and have done absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous pictures with them. And, I have so many different sets that are a higher quality and less what's the word? I'm trying to think of the word that I want to use. They take way less work to get the color out. Um, they're smoother. They glide a lot better on the cardstock. Like I said, coloring in Tabitha's book showed me that they are very good for coloring in coloring books. I don't color in my coloring books very often because I'm a page turner, and trying to turn a book is really, really hard. So um, normally I have a lot of my books in PDF form so that I can just print them out and on the paper I want them printed on, and um, that way I can turn the page while I'm coloring. So as that, I print on cardstock. So um, other than that, I don't have anything absolutely horrible to say about them. They're not absolutely horrible pencils, not any of them except for maybe the erasable colored pencils, but those are definitely very student grade. They are preferred by teachers and that sort of thing because they are erasable. They do have the color names on them, and they are very pretty, um, but not something that's extremely blendable. You would not be able to layer different colors together to get a um, heavy blend. So if you're coloring and you want a really heavy blend all the way across and you use a heavy hand, you're going to kill the tooth of the paper just with the first layer. And that would not be very good for these types of pencils. As a student coloring small things for your projects or that sort of thing, they're definitely usable and quite nice for that. And they do have a really pretty color once you get some color out of them. They are very light on pigment. You know, I colored with a very dark color. Mahogany should be quite a dark color, and it didn't look extremely dark to me. These ones, I do believe the color I used was raspberry, which would be this one here. So it did match the color quite well. Um, the other thing is all of them matched their color quite well that was listed on their pencils. The pencil out of the twistables, unfortunately, like I said, doesn't have a color on it, color name on it that I could find. If you guys know where the color name is, let me know because I couldn't find it. But they do have some really good colors, and they do go down quite nicely. And if you're using them in a coloring book and don't have really tight areas that you want to color in, I'm going to zoom you back out here a little bit. Oh, that's back in. Oh, sorry. I'm going to zoom you out and give you a bit of a focus so you can see what I'm talking about. Sorry. There we go. So the color that I believe that we used is raspberry. And they do match, all of them do match the color that is on the back of the back of the box or the back of the swatch chart. I don't have a problem with that. With these ones, the only problem I have is, of course, how do you sharpen them? And there's no names or numbers on the pencils themselves. So how do you guarantee that unless you keep them in the box in the exact order that you pull them out, how do you guarantee that those are the colors that that you want? Um, but other than that, you know, Crayola is an iconic brand. They have been a brand for a very, very long time for a reason. Um, They are one of the top staples for school supplies. When your kid is going to school, everybody wants the Crayola pencils or the Crayola crayons because they are higher quality in this student grade art supplies. Not only in the colored pencils and the pencil crayons, but also in the wax crayons and the palette paints, anything like that, is always a higher quality with a Crayola brand. They went further into adult coloring and artist grade coloring with this brand, this blend and shade colored pencil set. And even though they are a better quality, they're not for me. That I just, for the amount of pencils that you get and the price that you're paying for them, you're paying for the brand name, and that's it. I have found, and I do have better coloring pencils for what I use them for the cardstock, than I find these ones are. I have to put a little bit too much work into getting the color that I want out of them. On coloring book paper, they're fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. They don't take as much work, and they don't seem to, they leave more tooth on the coloring book paper than they do on the cardstock, in my opinion. From the way that I just tested them. Like I said, there's so many different ways of coloring with them, so many different ways of testing them and whatnot. I tested them for the way that I color, and with the way that I color and the testing that I just did in the swatching, as well as the coloring in the coloring book, is all the same way that I would typically color. So if you find that you have purchased something that isn't working for you, sometimes it's not the product. Sometimes it is the way you're coloring with the product, and the product doesn't match your style of coloring. That is not a bad thing against the product, and it's not a bad thing against you. Sometimes you just have to find the right product for you. And I can honestly say, even though I did start with Crayola and I really enjoyed my Crayola pencils when I was coloring in coloring books, when I first started out, before I started doing a lot of shading, a lot of blending, a lot of layering, I found that they worked perfectly for what I wanted to use them for. Now that I've grown and I've developed different techniques and different thought links and different feels for different things, I wouldn't be able to use them the way that I would want to use them, and to me that's a waste of money. With that, I thank you all very much for watching. I do apologize if I've stepped on anybody's toes or made anyone feel that I'm not being fair to an iconic brand, because that's what I was feeling when I first tried them and thought, oh, these are terrible. My first thoughts were, well, are you being really fair to a brand that has been around for ages and should know what they're doing? And I thought about it, and I thought long and hard about it for quite some time. To me, they're still an iconic brand. They're still a brand I would gladly buy for my kids. They're still a brand that I would gladly buy to color in coloring books. I don't color in coloring books as often as I used to. Most of my coloring, and like I said, is done on cardstock. And the style I use when I color and the techniques I use when I color don't match this kind of pencil. And that's all it is. It has nothing to do with the brand itself. It has nothing to do with the pencils themselves. I have learned that sometimes the pencil can be absolutely wonderful. Expensive, fantastic, beautiful pencils. And I can't use them because of the way that I color. Um, I have sent some back that just laid down terribly for me. And then seeing somebody else that had bought the same brand of pencil at about the same time that I bought mine, who is just doing absolutely gorgeous work with them. And it's all in the style of your coloring and how you use them, as well as the papers that you use them on. So because I don't use these, and I won't use these on coloring book paper as much as I would need to in order to justify the cost, I wouldn't buy them again. And I will probably be sending them back to Amazon, because to me they're very useless. To somebody else it's a bargain and a great set of pencils, and that's all that matters. And that's just my opinion on this brand of pencil. And it's really not anything to do with the fact that it is an iconic brand and I just wanted to smash an iconic brand. I don't. It's the pigmentation and the style of the amount of pressure, the style of pencil, the pigmentation in the lead, as well as the type of paper I use, aren't a good match for me. Plain and simple. All in all, if I had to buy anyone over again, it would definitely be these ones, because I did get some good color from these on the cardstock. If I could take two to a desert island, it would definitely be the 120 set for the amount of colors and the 50 colored set of the blend and shade, because I think I would get the best use out of them. But other than that, they are not for me. And that's just my opinion. Thank you all very much for joining me. I hope that I have given you my insights on this iconic brand of pencils. The Crayola brand is near and dear to my heart. It has been in my life for all of my life, pretty much. I grew up coloring with wax crayons from Crayola. I moved on to pencil crayons, and as an adult, I used their colored pencils, which are also pencil crayons. Um, and I know that a lot of people call them colored pencils, and that's what they say on the box, is colored pencils. However, when I was growing up, they were called pencil crayons. But that's neither here nor there. Of course, remember to leave me a comment, hit the like button, and if you're not already a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. When you subscribe to the channel, it helps me out. It also, if you hit the bell, will remind you of every time that I, of course, put up a video, as well as any special videos. I do have a video every day of the week, as well as a live color and chat on Saturday, as well as a work in progress color and chat on Wednesdays. So there's 2 live events that I do put out every week, as well as videos throughout the week. There's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday are all scheduled videos that I do put out every week on different topics. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Always remember, and this is absolutely the most important of it all, is to relax, color, and always stay safe. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.